Welcome to Spirits Podcast, a boozy dive into mythology, legends, and folklore. Every week we pour a drink and learn about a new story from around the world. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Julia.
And this is episode 113, Mythological Cross-Dressing with Andrea Lam, returning guest.
It's so nice to have Andrea back.
Yeah, this is super fun. I feel like it really builds on our first episode with her, Gender Fuck the Gods, and it is great. I had so much fun recording this. I cannot wait for you to hear it.
Yeah, this is an absolute blast of an episode, and we touch upon a bunch of topics that I think people are going to be really excited about.
And some of those folks who recently supported us on Patreon are lucky enough to have their shout out in this dope episode. Alicia, Shelby, Erin, Callahan, Andrea, Victoria, Dylan, Katie, Talia, and Kaylee. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for coming. This is going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of you, and we're excited for you to be here. We're also excited to welcome back our supporting producer level patrons. Philip, Julie, Eeyore, Kathy, Vinny, Danica, Marissa, Sammy, Josie, Amara, Neil, Jessica, Phil Fresh, and Deborah.
And our legend level patrons, all of whom can pull off whatever style of clothing they choose, regardless of gender. It's a social construct. Jordan, Jess, Sarah, Zoe, Sandra, Audra, Mercedes, Jack Marie, and Leanne.
We love you all. Y'all look great in that outfit.
Oh, and Julia, tell us about the cocktail we drank for this episode, which was suggested by Andrea.
Yeah, the drink that we had is called the Marlene Dietrich. It was actually suggested by Andrea, and Marlene Dietrich is a early movie star who traditionally had a very masculine wardrobe.
Yeah, it was awesome. She looks great in a tuxedo. Man, you should Google those images.
I wish I looked that good in a tuxedo.
Me too. And Jules, do you have a recommendation for us this week?
I do. I'm going to recommend another audio drama because, that's my jam. I'm going to recommend The Cryptonaturalist.
Very up our alley.
It is very up our alley. It is a podcast about a man who tells us about different interesting cryptozoology specimens and whatnot. It is very well written. It is very prose inspired. They do basically a poetry corner every time. I may or may not have guested on an episode. Other guests include Justin McElroy and Adil Rafai, who was on one of our guest episodes as well.
That sounds awesome. And I will always listen to a pod that you're on, girl.
Oh, thank you.
We are so looking forward to PodCon this coming weekend. If you are going to be there or if you live in Seattle, remember to go to multitude.productions/live to get the lowdown on where we're going to be and how to get tickets to our upcoming shows in Portland in February. But while you're there, I definitely encourage everybody to sign up for the Multitude newsletter. That is where you will get the first announcement of any additional live shows, any new merch, any exciting crossovers and interviews and guest appearances we make on other pods. It is your home for all things Multitude. So that's multitude.productions.
And Amanda does an amazing job curating that newsletter. So it is a delight to see it in my inbox every once in a while.
Thanks. It's also very purple.
It is super purple. I love it.
So without further ado, enjoy episode 113, Mythological Cross-Dressing with Andrea Lam. We're so happy to have Andrea Lam back with us after a rollicking success with our Gender Fuck the Gods episode. Maybe the best title of any episode so far.
Pretty damn good.
It's very good.
Thank you very much.
And today we're going to be covering something related but different, cross-dressing in mythology.
Yeah, again, another of my favorite subjects. There are a surprising amount of stories of men dressing up as women and women dressing up as men. Mm-hmm. Not quite drag as we know it now, but costuming. Mm-hmm. And this is generally something that's separate from sexual orientation or identity, as we will see.
Yeah, so you can be straight, you can be cis, and cross-dress, put on drag, present yourself differently for a time, for a purpose. I'm just thinking now of all the trickster gods and the Shakespeare, cross-dressing and things like that. Or you can be gay and do those things. There's all kinds of combinations possible. But this is, I think, a very cool kind of subset of, or not subset, but roundup throughout mythology that I'm excited to learn more about.
Yeah. Right, yeah. And it's very much along the lines of gender being performative.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And today, gender is very performative in mythology.
Hell yeah.
So we'll start with an episode from the youth of Achilles, the ancient Greek hero Achilles, who I'm sure most of you are already familiar with.
I'm already excited because I know what story you're going to tell.
Oh, yeah. But just in case you're not, Achilles is perhaps best known for his major part in the Trojan War. Achilles is a demigod, the son of the sea nymph Thetis. When Achilles was young, Thetis heard a prophecy saying that Achilles would die in the war on Troy. Thetis did a lot of things to try and prevent this. One variation, I mean, this is how we get Achilles' heel.
Right. He was dipped in something, if I
Yes.
remember.
Yes, yeah, that's one of the variations, is that Thetis took Achilles, baby Achilles, tiny baby wriggly Achilles, took him by his heel and dipped him into the water of, I believe, Styx in the underworld.
For immortality or some
yes.
such. Yeah.
As a goddess, she could do this. But unfortunately, he wasn't entirely immortal because of how she held him by the heel.
Yep. Submerge. You gotta submerge the baby, leave it there for a second, then pick it back up.
Just put him in a colander and dip the whole thing in.
There we go. See, that would have made more sense.
Shake, and then you're ready to go.
A gentle, just agitate the colander briefly.
I'm sorry, now I'm thinking of a baby Achilles in a giant salad spinner.
Me too.
Because as a
I
demigod,
also
he
had
could
that
handle
image.
There
it.
you
Yeah.
go. I was thinking of him as just a head of lettuce.
I mean, Brad Pitt in that terrible Troy film was
yo.
little better than head of lettuce, honestly. We'll come back to that.
Shots fired. Straight to the heel.
Anyway, that's Achilles' very quick backstory. The Greek war in Troy is about to begin, and the Greeks are mustering their forces. Achilles at this time has been secreted away in Thessaly under the care of the centaur Chiron, as distinct from Charon, who is the Greek ferryman to the land of the dead.
Oh, yeah.
So
2 coins. There and back.
Yeah.
That's all I
Yes.
remember about that.
So Achilles has been under the tutelage of Chiron, away from the war. Thetis goes to fetch him, to hide him away, to make sure that her dear baby boy won't be killed in battle.
Thetis, the ultimate helicopter mom.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, checks out.
And so Thetis retrieves Achilles and puts him on a ship. When he's asleep, she takes a little bit of a detour from Thessaly and goes to the island of Skyros, where King Lycomedes holds court. And mind you, Achilles is asleep during this time, and when he wakes up, he's on a whole new island. He's on Skyros. And what the fuck, Mum?
Yeah. You said we were
Thetis-
going to Disney and then for burgers.
Thetis has come up with a plan, and she tells Achilles, this poor Achilles probably still has sleep in his eyes, probably hungover as well. They had a bit of a party the night they left Thessaly.
Always.
That's a good way to make sure that your son sleeps through the journey that you are
I'm
unwillingly
super
going to take him on.
I mean, they're Greeks. There's a theme, unfortunately. Bad things happen when you fall asleep. Don't do it.
Sounds very sustainable. Never sleep. Always watch. Mad Eye Moody had it right.
Correct.
So Achilles wakes up in Skyros, and Thetis tells him her magnificent plan, which is she wants Achilles to disguise himself as a girl, as a young woman, and hide among the daughters of King Lycomedes' court. And that way the Greeks will never find him, and he will stay alive and safe forever. Achilles is not super happy with this plan, mostly because he probably has a raging headache from all that wine, and initially refuses, really digs his heels in. Kind of a bad son, also kind of understandable, but also his mother's trying to save his life, honestly.
I
Yeah.
do have to appreciate your dig his heels in. Put him.
Oh, no. Serious business here, lads.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I see it. She's trying to do what's best, and he is saying, hey, if I'm going to hang out with a bunch of ladies, it's not going to be dressed as a lady.
Right. But the thing that changes Achilles' mind is when he attends a festival at Lycomedes' court, in which Lycomedes' multiple beautiful daughters perform a dance in honor, I believe, of Pallas Athena. And during the festivities, he spies Deidamia, Lycomedes' most beautiful daughter. Of course, it's always the most beautiful.
Always.
And he decides, I like that one. And so he says, yes, okay, dress me up as a woman, put me among the women, so he can hang out with Deidamia.
Achilles, disaster buy.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a really strong recurring theme.
Yeah. Clothes a little disheveled, heel hanging out. Makes sense to me.
And so Thetis dresses Achilles up as a young woman, and this is not described in detail in the myth. And by the way, the most complete version of this story we have from someone who is actually a Roman poet, Statius. This episode does not occur in the Iliad or the Odyssey. This is something that has existed sort of in nebulous form, and is very popular story. But the most extant, the most solid text we have was written afterwards, and the poem is actually incomplete. It's called the Achilles, and is meant to be the story of Achilles' life from start to finish.
Nice. Incomplete, fragmented poem, disaster by. It's absolutely right. Absolutely.
Just killing it.
Achilles sees Deidamia, falls in, well, we'll say lust, and agrees to Theseus' magnificent plan. She dresses up Achilles as a woman and apparently teaches him how to behave as a woman. Again, this is sort of nebulous, but we can imagine from context and from what we know of other cross-dressing stories in mythology, a lot of it is just gendered behavior.
Yeah, like gesture, posture,
exactly,
stuff like that.
Voice, things like that, and what you're allowed to be interested in and what you're not allowed to be.
Right.
Which becomes important later.
Yeah, foreshadowing.
God damn it, when there's two of you ganging up on me, it's like, oh, I want to know the story.
And so once Thetis does this, she brings Achilles, again, dressed as a woman, to Lycomedes' court and introduces him as her daughter. Lycomedes agrees to take Achilles under his protection, and, he is boarded up. He is sent to live with the women as a woman. Meanwhile, the Greeks are mustering their troops, their sailors and the soldiers, the forces at Aulis. But everyone looks around and notices that Achilles is not here. Where's Achilles? We thought he was in Thessaly with that centaur guy, but apparently not. Where is he? So the Greeks round up the seer Calchas. Calchas has a vision. Snitches get stitches. Come on, Calchas.
Come on.
Calchas has a vision, and everyone finds out that, oh wait, Achilles is on Skyros in a dress. The heroes Odysseus, we know Odysseus, and Diomedes travel to Skyros to find him. Meanwhile, son of meanwhile, Deidamia has figured out that Achilles is Achilles and not just a pretty lady, and keeps a secret. Decides to help him
Plot twist.
Maintain this secret identity. Unfortunately, Achilles does not return the favor necessarily. Deidamia has done him a solid, right?
Yeah.
Achilles proceeds to rape Deidamia in a sacred wood. Okay, rape really bad, sacred wood also bad.
Yeah.
Double bad in this situation.
Yeah,
like
bad to
particularly
do,
bad.
but a bad place to do it also.
Right. And, this is where I would love to read some sort of transformative retelling of this story from maybe Deidamia's perspective. Because from Statius, we have the fact that after Achilles rapes her, she forgives him and continues to keep his secret.
Oh, boy.
Becomes pregnant by him and bears his son.
Pyrrhus.
Yeah.
Actually, Madeline Miller does a really interesting perspective of this in The Song of Achilles, and I would highly recommend everyone check it out because it includes this story for sure. And it's like a really interesting thing where he like marries her and stuff like that, and it's not a rape as far as I remember from the story, so it's a little bit better. Madeline Miller's very good at that kind of thing, so I would recommend everyone check it out. But
Excellent.
A story as old as that, with so many retellings and such a place in popular imagination, I totally see how there can be like substantial differences that just
of course,
arise over time.
for sure.
At this point, Odysseus and Diomedes have landed in Skyros and are welcomed by Lycomedes to his court. Odysseus and Diomedes have brought gifts for Lycomedes' beautiful daughters. Call everyone in to the court, lay out the gifts on silks.
Come check out what we got.
Oh yes, yeah. Beautiful clothes, jewels, musical instruments as well. And in a corner, a set of weaponry, a shield, and a helmet.
I was going to ask if they brought Achilles a knife, and they did.
They did.
Nice.
Here's a shitty knife for you, Achilles. How about it?
Listen, in my household growing up, someone always got a weapon for Christmas, and it was always very exciting.
It's so on brand for your family.
I know. After a couple of years, it was like it became a thing. We're like, who's going to get the weapon this year? And my favorite one was that my brother Connor got a shillelagh, a traditional Irish club and walking stick. It's beautiful.
Okay, that sounds amazing because when I went to university, I had to buy myself the official Noble collection letter opener replica of Glamdring, Gandalf's sword.
Whoa.
But that is the only so-called weapon that I have. And your family version of that sounds amazing.
I don't know. They both sound pretty dope.
Axes, mallets, leathermen.
I want a shillelagh.
Yeah, shillelaghs are strong choice in the best way. They're great.
And so Odysseus and Diomedes have set up this beautiful offering, which is actually a trap. The women and Achilles file in. All the women are naturally drawn to the beautiful dresses and the jewels and the musical instruments and, you know, probably just plucking out Wonderwall maybe in the corner or something like that, or the ancient Greek equivalent.
I'm pretty sure the ancient Greek equivalent is Wonderwall.
Achilles, he remembers his lessons, his woman lessons from Thetis, but Achilles, being Achilles, is drawn to the shield, to the helmet, and to the weapons. He is the only one who does so.
Yeah.
And seeing this, clever Odysseus pulls out a war horn or a trumpet or something from behind his back, essentially, and he blows on it, and Achilles grabs the sword and jumps up ready for battle.
Oh no.
Gotcha, Achilles.
Oh, damn it.
That's you.
You know, I want to make fun of how this is very like gender essentialist, but like it's a pretty good plan. It's
Yeah,
a pretty good
Isn't
plan.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's very on brand for Odysseus.
I know. You give me like a queer performance poetry anthology, like I'm just gonna run to it.
The thing is about this is one of my favorite images from Greek myth is Odysseus forcing Achilles to reveal himself. And this is and has been a very popular subject in not just Greek art, but especially in Renaissance art as well. It's popped up throughout the centuries because it's such powerful visual.
Yeah, it's so vivid. And like there's so much going on. There's lots of people. There's like luxury goods. I can see why, particularly for fine art, it would be a really good subject. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But going back to that terrible Troy film, the 2004 one with Brad Pitt as
Hit me up with
Achilles,
that Brad Pitt shade.
the makers of that film were cowards.
Should have put him in a dress.
They had a chance to put Brad Pitt in a dress. They didn't. They chickened out. They put him in this sort of blue, not really chiton because all the costumes were kind of whatever.
Awful.
Yeah. So they put him in this blue thing with, I think, like the equivalent of a puka shell necklace. They made him look like a surfer.
No.
Oh my god.
Yeah, nah.
You could have like doubled your box office returns by giving us Brad Pitt in like really convincing drag.
We could have had it. We could have had it all rolling in the deep.
You had my heart inside of your hands and you played it.
Rolling in the Aegean doesn't really scan.
That didn't quite work.
In the version that we have from Statius, again, this later Roman poet, once Achilles reveals himself to Odysseus, to Diomedes, to Lycomedes, and everyone, Lycomedes legitimates their relationship. Achilles knocked up his daughter in secret behind his back. They had a son, okay. Deidamida stays on Skyros and pines for Achilles while Achilles sails off to war and death. Right?
Achilles.
Okay. There's a few other versions and these are the ones that I like much better, in which Deidamia also dresses up. She takes her turn. Deidamia dresses up as a man herself and sails with the men to Troy.
Fuck yeah.
I like that version a lot better.
Much better.
does.
I mean,
Yeah.
unfortunately, she probably also dies, but still, she's a lot more active in that version, and you
Yeah.
get that great reverse visual.
Yep. For sure.
That's really nice.
So that's one of my favorite stories
It's a good
to
one.
come out of the Trojan War and Greek mythology more broadly. There's a historical episode, actually, which is basically grounded in cross-dressing as well. It occurs around 510 BCE in the land of Argos, and it concerns the great female poet Telesilla, who we know because through the fragments that we still have of her poetry, scholars were able to learn a lot of basically unique ancient Greek words. I believe they're called hapax legomenon, that we only have through Telesilla's poetry.
That's cool as hell.
That's wild.
And I
yeah.
believe she is one of the, I think, 7, 8, or 9, some magical number of canonical female ancient Greek poets.
That's cool.
So Telesilla, already kind of great. And her legend becomes even greater because according to Pausanias, in 510 BCE, Cleomenes of Sparta has laid siege to Argos and has slain basically all of the Argive men, the soldiers of age on the battlefield,
Right.
and has begun his march on the city. Telesilla gathers up all of the elderly and sick men who weren't able to go off to battle, and gathers up all the women. She stations all the old and sickly men around the walls of the city and puts all the women in armor and gives them weapons and stations them prominently on the walls of the city.
Oh, wow.
Overlooking the plain. So when Cleomenes arrives and looks up and sees, oh god, we did not expect this, he decides to cut his losses and flees.
Our listeners cannot see it, but I am fist pumping real hard right now.
I love that idea.
And so there was instituted essentially a festival in celebration of Telesilla, of this great strategic feat of hers, called the Hybristica, which is partially celebrated by men dressing as women and women dressing as men.
It's awesome.
I want to go to there.
I know. Oh, I love it so much. I love like the use of theatrics and showmanship, you know, for like interesting strategic purposes. And also the idea that like, you know, you thought we were useless and you're protecting us by, you know, leaving us at home. Sorry, suckers, you know, we are going to weaponize ourselves in the way that we can.
Yeah, it's not just Spartan women who have fighting spirit.
Mm-hmm. And from a poet too. That's awesome.
And so we'll move on to the return of Thor and Loki.
Oh, man.
Back at it.
Thought
back
we were done.
My boys, they back at it.
We're not done.
Yeah, speaking
They're
of disaster
never-ending.
buys, it's the return of Loki.
The return of the original disaster buy.
Love him.
So in our Gender Fuck the Gods episode, I told the story of Loki transforming himself into a mare and giving birth to an 8-legged horse.
Yep, that
You
happened.
did. It happened, and you told us about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
because Loki gives bad advice, and he is canonically in the Eddas known as the one who gives bad advice.
Yes.
It's so good. Every time I think about that, I'm like, that's such a sick burn.
I know.
Such a sick burn on Loki.
I know. Not even that he doesn't try, but that he tries and fails.
So, and that story happened we know that story from the Prose Edda, in the Poetic Edda, and that story begins, perhaps my favorite poem in the Poetic Edda is called the Thrumskvida, which is named after the giant Thrum. The story begins with Thor just waking up one morning, probably hungover. This is a
Classic.
theme.
Classic.
Thor wakes up one morning to find that Mjolnir, his great and mighty hammer, has been stolen in the night when he was sleeping.
Unacceptable.
And so Thor and Loki want to find out what the hell is going on.
Fair.
So so to speak. Thor and Loki go to the goddess Freya, long-suffering Freya, and ask her to loan them her magical feather cloak so they can fly across the realms and find Mjolnir. Mm-hmm. Freya says, yeah, okay.
Just leave Freya
yeah.
alone. Let her take a nap.
God, Freya just needs to like hang out with a glass of wine.
Yeah, all right, I'll do you this favor, okay. It's not like you're asking for my hand in marriage to some other guy again.
Oh, thank God. For once, that story doesn't start with that.
It doesn't start with that.
Oh, boy.
Oh no.
Poor Freya. So Loki puts on Freya's magical feather cloak and flies across the realms and arrives
Carrying
in...
Thor. Just like under his armpits.
No, actually, that I think happens later.
Okay, good.
This time Loki goes alone
Okay.
in his feather cloak, which I'm sure Tom Hiddleston would rock.
I know.
Man, would he?
Give Tom Hiddleston a cloak. Give him a
one.
feather cloak. Give him a disaster by rainbow feathered cloak.
Amazing. And so he puts on the cloak and flies to Jotunheim, the realm of the giants. And that's where he finds the titular giant Thrum. Thrum asks, what the hell are you doing here? Loki
question.
says, we're trying to find this hammer. Have you seen it? And Thrum says, I stole the hammer.
Whoa.
I did the thing.
Plot twist.
I've seen it because I have it. It's right here.
Yeah.
I
Thor
saw it
just
last night when I stole it.
Yeah, Thor was just knocked out, sleeping. Came into your realm, stole the hammer, won't give it back.
Again, the lesson, never sleep.
That is becoming a theme.
And Thrum refuses to return the hammer until he's given Freya's hand in marriage.
God damn it, leave Freya alone.
Leave Freya alone.
This is like the anti-dowry. Instead of being
Essentially.
given stuff when you agree to marry a person, you steal it in order to coerce them to marry you.
Yep.
Leave Freya alone 2018.
Hand raise emoji. Couldn't agree more.
So Loki flies back to Asgard, joins up with Thor, and they go and plead their case to Freya. Will you marry this guy so Thor can get his hammer back?
No. I'm sorry. Let's revisit the premise.
And Freya bless her, goes into a rage so mighty that the hall shakes and says, fuck no. No, I am not going to marry this random giant because you had a huge hangover and couldn't keep hold of your hammer.
That sounds like
I thought you were going to say, like, she just acquiesced. And I was going to be like, fair enough. Like, she seems like so put upon that I wouldn't blame her for just being kind of defeated. But this is a much more badass outcome.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite lines in the poem is that her rage is so great that she shakes the hall.
Love it.
I love her so much.
Plan A didn't work because Freya is her own goddess. And so the gods all meet and discuss because Thor needs his hammer back in defense of Asgard so the giants don't get in. And gods don't really know what to do. Luckily, Loki is not the one who comes up with the plan this time. It's actually a kind of decent plan. And that's because Heimdall figured it out.
Yeah, that's usually how it rolls, huh?
Yeah, Heimdall, the smart one. But the thing is, the plan is, let's put Thor in a frock. Let's start Thor up as Freya, send him to Thrym, and figure it out from there.
Just rouge his cheeks a little bit.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, I really want to zoom in on the go from there part, though. Like, what and when exactly is this going to be
We'll
revealed?
see what happens. It'll probably be fine.
One of the really fun things about working with these ancient texts is that, it's a lot of plot and not so much character.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to imagine everyone's reactions to basically everything. Like, let's put Thor in a frock. There's a longer, rather beautiful passage about all the things that they will put on Thor to make him look like Freya.
Sure.
Jewelry and gowns and all that sort of thing. It's rather lovely. Unfortunately, Thor refuses.
Come on, Thor.
He specifically refuses because there's a line, it's the Andy Orchard translation. Thor says, "The gods will call me a cockcraver." And that's why he doesn't want to put on a frock.
You know what, Thor? You know what,
Yeah.
Thor? Chris
Masculinity.
Hemsworth would be down for this.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, you would look great. You have great thighs. Come on.
Edda Thor is kind of a dick. I much prefer the Chris Hemsworth version.
The
Yeah.
puppy dog one.
Yeah,
I got you.
good
know.
dude.
Oh, so good.
Yeah,
So pure.
Masculinity is so fragile in ancient texts.
Still is, unfortunately.
Marvel Thor does not care. Marvel Thor wanted to be a Valkyrie.
Oh yeah,
Just saying.
Yes, amazing.
enjoys braiding his hair. Yeah, enjoys dressing up.
Oh, so good. So much product in that hair. It's so beautiful.
So Thor refuses in a very dickish manner, and Loki tells him to put up and shut up because we're going to do this thing.
Damn
We're
right.
going to get your damn hammer back so the walls don't fall to the giants. So Thor dresses up as Freya, and Loki dresses up as Freya's handmaiden
There we go.
because Thor cannot be trusted to make this work on
Correct.
his own.
Freya's like, I'll go.
No, Loki'll go.
Yeah. So Loki also is up in, also gets himself up in a dress.
Loki's like, I'm cool with this. Let's
Yeah.
go.
And again, we should see this in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I am quite sure that both Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston have been in a dress before and would be willing to do this.
Oh yeah,
I want them to do the get help from
Yeah.
Thor Ragnarok, but this.
Yeah.
yeah. And
I mean,
fandom
they
would
could
fucking
do it
love
for charity. They could just film it like a
Yeah,
short
yeah.
for charity.
They did that one short where it was like, where's Thor in this Avengers movie or
yeah,
whatever?
in Australia
Yeah, he's
with
just
his
hanging
flatmate
out.
Daryl.
Yeah.
So Thor and Loki in dresses, they go back to Jotunheim and meet up with Thrym, who doesn't suspect anything, celebrates by throwing a wedding feast for
yeah.
his wedding to Thoria.
At least they got a feast out of it.
Thor, yeah.
Thoria.
Yeah.
And so yeah, wedding feast. At the wedding feast, Thor, again, in a dress, made up, whatever, imagine.
Rosy cheeks.
Yeah, just let your imagination run wild. Thor proceeds to basically eat most of the feast.
Yep.
In the text, he eats a whole ox, 8 salmon, all of the delicacies available, which basically means he stuffs his face with sweets. And he washes that down with 3 entire barrels of mead.
I imagine the wedding guests just looking at each other like, well, we can't really call out the bride, I guess. So.
And
That's gonna be
she's
at my wedding.
Yeah. She's a goddess, so she's got appetites, but also
True.
this does seem a little bit unusual.
yeah.
A little excessive, but we're not going to judge.
So Thrym kind of makes an noise, essentially. And Loki reassures him that Thoria had not eaten or drunk for the previous 8 days and nights because he was so excited to come to Jotunheim to marry Thrum.
Yeah, because when I'm excited, I don't eat or drink ever.
And then
I get that
binge
people
on an ox and a lot of salmon and mead.
Yikes.
Freyr? That's also good. Sorry,
Freyr.
I'm really into this.
I like Freyr. It's a good portmanteau.
So next, Thrum sneaks a peek under Freyr's veil.
Okay, I thought you were going to say dress. That's better. Veil. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a veil at least.
Yeah, sneaks a peek under his veil and sees his glaring eyes and kind of goes, "Oh my god!" Essentially.
Wait, so was he eating under the veil? Was there like a tent, like a car wash
Amazing.
of food?
Oh god,
yeah.
Under the veil.
The
and
ox just
disappear.
slowly disappearing.
Can we really? I want a charity short of this. I mean, you can even
Yeah.
you can reuse a Ren Fair set with the turkey legs and the whatever.
We know that Hemsworth loves to eat.
Also, listen, we got friends at Marvel. We could do this.
It wouldn't translate as well to audio.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the Foley would be the production.
Good
Unpleasant
Foley.
at best. Yeah.
So Thrum peeks under Thoria's veil, freaks out a little bit because, oh god, red and glaring and very angry at me. Loki reassures the giant that no, it's just because Thor had not slept for the previous 8 days and nights
Aw.
because, again, so excited to go to Jotunheim to marry this strange giant.
Hey, again, don't sleep. Not sleeping solves all of our problems.
You know, say what you will about Loki. He knows how to sell a lie.
Yeah.
I
He's not
appreciate
good
that.
at planning, but he can kind of figure it out on his feet.
Disaster pie.
And so, sort of in the middle of all of this, Thrum's sister, also a giant, comes up and just asks for a bridal gift of, I believe, rings for arms and fingers, sort of as a marker of this new sisterhood
Sure.
Oh.
of Freya marrying into the family.
Oh boy.
Finally, Thrum brings the hammer, brings Mjolnir to Thoria. Freyr. I love it. Brings Mjolnir to him and lays it in his lap, creasing, obviously, the fabric of this beautiful gown that he is wearing. And that's it. That's all she wrote. Thor rips himself out of the dress, grabs up the hammer, and proceeds to fuck up all the giants.
Yep.
Oh boy.
He fucks up Thrum first, obviously, for the indignity of putting him through all of this, even though it was Thor's fault in the first place.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the Edda makes specific mention of Thor then fucking up Thrum's sister for daring to ask for a gift to mark this new sisterly relationship.
Oh boo.
Thor.
Because Thor's a dick. And
it's
then,
a
you know,
hand of
he fucks up
friendship.
all the other giants, but
Yeah.
specifically the sister, that's personal. That's unwarranted.
You know,
And Loki's just chilling watching all
Yeah,
this.
basically.
Fucking Loki.
Oh, Loki. I do really enjoy the construction, though, of like, what big eyes you have, what big teeth you
Exactly,
have. You know,
yeah.
I like that a lot.
So yeah, that's the story of Thor and Loki in dresses. And, you know, I really would love to see a 21st century adaptation of this. Completely
Let Chris
modernized.
Hemsworth eat an ox.
Yes.
While we pitch that to Marvel,
Yeah.
man, I think I need a refill.
Oh man, so much talk of feasting. I want to go find some meat of my own.
Amanda, I know how much you like sexy, half animal, half human hybrids.
That's a stretch. Why do you ask?
There is a new TV series on Freeform called Siren.
Ooh, I mean, sirens are hot, man.
Sirens
I
are hot.
do admit to that.
So it is about a powerful and alluring mermaid Rin who mysteriously comes to shore in a small town called Bristol Cove. But she is no Little Mermaid. This is no Disney movie, Amanda. The first episode, she straight up throws a man through a windshield to defend herself.
That sounds very Winona Earp of her.
I know, I'm into it. And now in this upcoming season, more mermaids have arrived. So even hotter mermaids. Is it for refuge or revenge? What are they looking for? I personally can't wait for the show's return on Freeform because it is unpredictable, it is action-packed, and if you haven't seen it on TV before, you're going to want to check it out. It is a unique approach to the mermaid myth, and you know we love mermaids. We did a whole episode on mermaids. You know we love them. Siren returns on Thursday, January 24th at 8 p.m. on Freeform, and don't miss it.
Yeah, you can get the Freeform app on Roku. You can stream it online. So check it out. I am going to be tuning into the second series because Sexy Mermaid sounds like a really good night.
Everyone loves a sexy fish.
Well, Julia, speaking of sexy fish, this is actually a true segue. We are also sponsored this week by Skillshare, where you can learn truly anything, including this week, I took a course called Flex Your Creativity with Drawing and Doodles. I did not know about these sexy fish when I took this course, but I wish I did, and maybe I'll use my newfound skills to do some doodling. It was never a hobby that I had, like a, thing that I did in class when taking notes or anything, but I have been trying to exercise my creativity in new ways this year because I do creative stuff for my job, but I also want to make sure that I am like doing some creative stuff that's just for fun. So never having been into drawing, I thought, well, why not give it a shot? And this course is awesome. It really made me feel like less self-conscious about drawing something good and more like drawing for imagination. So you can check out Flex Your Creativity with Drawing and Doodles on Skillshare, which is an online learning community for creators. They have over 25,000 classes on things that will fuel your curiosity, your creativity, and your career. So go to Skillshare.com/spirits2. This is a new URL, people. Skillshare.com/spirits2, new URL for a new year. And that will get you 2 months of Skillshare Premium for free.
Yeah, you don't have to pay that 99 cents anymore. Now you're getting it for free.
That's Skillshare.com/spirits2 for a free 2-month trial of their premium membership.
And it is great.
Whether you are drawing sexy fish or learning about SEO and marketing for your day job, Skillshare has something for you.
Mobile photography for when you're taking pictures of what you think is a mermaid outside.
Totally. You got to make sure you get that framing right when you take photos of your cryptids.
Heck yeah. No more blurry photos of cryptids. Take a Skillshare class.
No more. Not on our watch. Not on Skillshare's watch. Wow, this ad break really has been a heck of a refill.
Let's get back to it.
All right, let's go.
So yeah, I would love to see a 21st century, completely modern adaptation of the Thrumskvida, specifically with the Marvel Cinematic Universe cast in place. Mm-hmm. So Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Tom Hiddleston as Loki. I guess we'll have to find some person to do Freya. Yeah. Actual Freya, not Thoria or Freyr.
Yeah. And Ava Longoria.
Huh. Yeah. Mostly because I just kind of want Ava Longoria or, some amazing actress to scream the hall down.
Oh, yeah.
Gina Rodriguez.
She's, I don't know, I feel like she's too pretty to suffer. Like, I don't want to put her through that in her role.
Okay.
But she's badass
That's
and wonderful.
I just can imagine all the people trying to propose to her. So that's where my head's at.
Or other half of my favorite almost power couple on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Stephanie Beatrice.
Yeah.
She would be great.
Ooh, yeah, she would. Ooh, the amount of anger that I just pictured in my head there was so very good.
I know. Can throw a knife, can eat a feast.
Most of all, for this speculative modern adaptation of the Thrumskvida, I need Idris Elba to reprise his role as Heimdall.
Yes.
Mostly because I love the idea of Idris Elba, king of Hackney, coming up with this brilliant idea to put Chris Hemsworth in a dress.
Just pointing at Chris Hemsworth, like, you dress now.
Yeah. And,
long veil.
Basically like a stag do, essentially. Just shove him in a dress, put some makeup on, slap a wig on there, and, send him across the border into Jotunheim.
Original Thor doesn't even need a wig.
That's
Only
true.
after Ragnarok does he need the wig.
This is true.
And so we come to, I feel, for me personally, the canonical story of cross-dressing in mythology and folklore, which is the story of Hua Mulan.
Mulan.
My favorite. Not a princess, but my favorite Disney princess.
Yes, agreed.
Next to Shuri.
Listen, if she's not a princess, I don't want to be one. Like, she is the defining member of that category.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Also completely my gay awakening as a child.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, pretty lady. Oh, better as a man. Oh, also cool lady. Yes. Excellent.
You're not wrong there.
The answer is just yes.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably the reverse of how Li Shang from the Disney film came to realize that he was bi too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100% true.
I'm so sad that Li Shang won't be in the Disney live action adaptation.
That's the most upsetting thing to me in the world. You have no idea. I just wanted a hot version of BD Wong. Not that BD Wong's not attractive, but I just wanted that so bad.
Yeah. But then again, the Disney live action version is changing and adding a lot. I mean, every version of the Mulan story changes and adds a lot because, as we'll find out, the original text, there's not a lot to it, actually.
Okay.
I mean,
really?
Mulan's significance, I think, really demands an episode dedicated to her alone. But very briefly, for the purposes of this roundup, the Ballad of Mulan originally appeared in the 6th century. And unfortunately, we don't actually have that text. We know it existed then.
Okay.
But the earliest actual text that we have appeared in anthology from around the 11th or 12th centuries.
Oh, wow.
Which was explicitly sourced to that 6th century original, which is how we know it existed.
Right.
The thing is, basically everyone knows the Disney version at the very least. The original Ballad of Mulan is a very short poem. It's only 31 couplets.
Really?
62 very short lines.
Wow.
We could read it in like 10 minutes.
Essentially, yeah. So, so many folktales and legends and things, at least the poetic versions, are mostly just a plot outline with not a lot of space given to dialogue, characterization, anything like that, which is why it's so important to track, subsequent evolutions, adaptations, and things like that, which all respond to the culture of their time.
Right. And I think that's the best kind of stories too, are the ones that are so simple that you can build off of. Like as long as the building blocks are there, the like inspiration that it causes and the versions and the AUs and all that are just like the best kind of storytelling. And that's like what folklore is all about, honestly.
Right.
Yeah, it lets you enrich the character with your own mind and relate to them and make assumptions that relate the most to you, which makes it feel so personal.
Yeah, for sure.
And was that original short poem probably performed orally?
I'm not quite sure, actually, but the next time the story of Mulan appears in Chinese literature is during the next significant time it appears is during the Ming Dynasty.
I will pause for 1 second to say China has more of an established tradition of written text than most cultures that we talk about on the show. So it might have started out oral, but it definitely was written down early on. And then that tradition continued, for sure.
Awesome.
So during the Ming Dynasty, Shu Wei wrote a play about Mulan, and that's one of the texts that we get a lot more sort of added on characterization and plot details and things like that, which, when you start with just 62 short lines, you have to kind of go up and out from there.
You can bulk it up.
Yeah. And after that, in the Qing Dynasty, Chu Renhuo wrote the story of Mulan, expanded it dramatically in his historical novel, the Sui Tang Romance, which I have not personally read in full, but honestly, it's not my favorite, mostly because even though there's a really cool detail of that version of Mulan meeting a fellow woman warrior, and then they have this epic friendship or, maybe gal pal thing. We don't really know. we can believe.
Pals.
Yeah.
So good.
I want to believe.
Yeah.
So even though she has this really interesting relationship with another woman warrior, she comes to a bad end, a sad and tragic end in the novel, which, every adaptation responds to its own historical context and its culture, the needs of its culture. But the nice thing is that we can kind of pick and choose at this late point in history.
Yeah, and decide for ourselves which ones are true for us and which ones are the ones that we retell and remember. Sure.
So going back, though, to the very short original poem, The Ballad of Mulan. Mulan is Mulan's the equivalent of her given name, her first name. In Chinese, the surname comes first. We know her as Hua Mulan because I believe that's the surname that Shu Wei gave her in his play during the Ming Dynasty. Mulan has been given different surnames depending on the text and depending on the era, and also the story has been set during different eras depending on the political historical needs of whatever era is telling the story.
Folklore is very like
mutable,
and also very political at times, especially that kind of stuff.
Certainly,
where it's like so part of the like country's zeitgeist.
So Hua caught on partially because it rhymes poetically. Hua means flower. And in the Disney film, her name is given as Fa Mulan. Fa is the Cantonese version of the Mandarin Hua,
Oh, interesting.
It's the same
Nice.
character.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And Mulan, I believe, means magnolia flower. So flower, specific flower.
Flower, magnolia flower.
It makes sense. It makes way more sense to start with the surname and go to the first name.
Yeah.
You know.
Because it immediately establishes what family you are and then
Right.
who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
Which especially in,
Which makes sense, yeah.
Culturally, that makes a lot more sense
Yeah.
than what we do.
So again, in this very short 62-line poem, it's just a sketch, really. It's the bare bones version of what we know in every other more detailed adaptation. It begins with the order given for conscription of one man from every family to join the army and fight China's enemies. And so Mulan looks at a family, sees that her father is very elderly and should not fight, and that her little brother is very little and also should not fight. And Mulan, this is something that I really like about the original poem, is that apparently Mulan has already been trained in multiple disciplines of fighting, like martial arts and swordplay and archery and a few other things. So she's already well prepared. So she basically puts on a suit of men's armor and goes to war.
So we miss out on the best song of the Mulan Disney movie, which is Be a Man, which is a great
It is.
song.
It really
My
is.
head just fast forwarded through the whole training and also
Very
cross-dressing montage, because that's epic.
And skipping forward even further, after 12 years of war,
Damn.
Oh, jeez.
62 lines, man, very short lines.
Dang. Wow.
I'm sorry, did you sneeze? No, I said 12 years later.
After 12 years of war, the army, Mulan included, returns, and the soldiers are rewarded. Mulan's still in a soldier's outfit, still dressed as and being perceived as a man. She refuses all honorifics, all material and sort of political honors that they want to give her for the army's success. And she only asks for just one fast horse to return home as quickly as possible because she misses her family.
Yeah.
This is a story grounded on filial piety.
Yes, right. And if her dad was elderly to begin with, like, of course she wants to get home right away.
Yes, definitely. And so she goes home on a fast horse and returns to life dressed as a woman. At this point, she meets up with her old army friends again. Again, dressed as a woman. They kind of go, what? they have a moment that like a double take, right?
Yeah.
Big old double take. And then a really nice thing is that, you know, they just accept her. They're like,
Aw.
they're
pretty
still
cool.
friends. Yeah.
Still the
You-
person I
you
spent
did that thing.
12
Yeah.
years fighting with.
Exactly, yeah. They still
Wow.
have that camaraderie.
Yeah.
That's adorable.
And so there are many adaptations of this story, not just the play from the Ming Dynasty and the historical novel from the Qing Dynasty, but loads and loads of film and television adaptations, mostly in Chinese, but as we know, Disney brought it over. That was, oh God, growing up, that was my favorite Disney film for obvious
'Cause it's
reasons.
so good.
Yeah. And it was the first time, I mean, seeking representation in these products put out by enormous corporate empires. I think we can broadly say that representation is good, but also it sometimes can feel a little weird to want or to need, quote unquote, acknowledgement from these corporate juggernauts.
Right. Like, why should their opinion or their gaze matter to me?
Right.
But,
But
still
at the same
does.
time, Mulan is amazing. The Disney
Yeah.
Mulan is amazing.
and their scope too, like not just for, you know, people who feel really seen, but by everybody else who can, you know, have a like Chinese woman dressed as a man, like as their kind of cultural like touchstone or hero.
And also, in the Disney film, Mulan's mother looks uncomfortably close to how my mother looks, which was always kind of stressful, honestly. Amazing to see my
Yeah.
family's features
Yeah.
in this major film, but also a little weird.
Yeah.
Too close to home. Too close to home.
You know what strikes me? That's the next like Broadway Disney movie that I want to see. I want to see a like live action Mulan. That would be amazing. Think of how good that would be.
You got your I Want song.
Yeah.
You got your makeover song.
Yeah.
You got your training montage.
Yeah.
You got like the plot arc that is war. You got the coming home. Your little like reprisal is built in.
Yeah. Fuck Frozen. This is what I
Love.
want now.
I know.
I'll keep Aladdin. Aladdin's good. Lion King, also good. Give me Mulan.
So yeah, loads and loads of adaptations at fairly regular intervals. This is a massively popular story in China. Going back to the Disney film, you know, it embellishes a lot, it invents a whole hell of a lot. I mean, I love Li Shang, but Li Shang is, you know, not there.
Yeah.
He is in the massive ellipsis of the 12 years of war.
There's this one hot guy in the 12 Years of War. We'll skip ahead. It's fine. BD Wong
very
wasn't
broad
actually
shoulders. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, there's no romance
Yeah.
in the original story. It's all about the filial piety.
Yeah, exactly. Not the point.
there. Yeah, I was going to say, which might make it better. But also, I do like just a little bit of romance every once in a while.
Mostly because of Li Shang Disaster By. Bless him.
So good. Such a mess. Trying to be a leader, just so bad at it.
But there's one particular thing about the Disney adaptation that I really appreciated is during that massive palace siege moment at the climax of the film, which again, just a lot of invented stuff, really fun.
Yeah.
But also, where did that come from? We don't know. There's a bit in which Mulan's former rivals within the army, the three dudes,
Which, like, Herbie Firestein and then two other people that I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember.
who were the only three who tried to convince Li Shang not to leave Mulan behind when she was revealed as
right.
a woman. And again, in the poem, never revealed as a woman. She
Not until later.
yes,
She
exactly.
reveals on her
it
own
was
terms.
her choice to do
Yeah.
it.
That's really
Which
the
is
end.
amazing to me. That kind of the point is like, yes, like you can sacrifice for your family, do something really daring, come back, and also, you know, keep the gains that you made for yourself. Like that to me is really cool. It's not a choice. It's, you know, you can improve yourself and your reputation and better your life by bettering your family's life.
There's that moment in the battle for the palace where these three guys who have become her friends over the course of the film, they show up. They round the corner. They round the corner of a pillar. A pillar is round.
I got you. I know what you meant.
They turn up in
They
support.
round the round
They
corner.
round the round.
It's very good. I like it.
They show up to join Mulan in recovering the emperor, and they show up cross-dressed. They show up in Chinese opera drag,
Oh, wow.
which I thought was a really nice nod to the tradition of drag
yeah.
in the history of Chinese opera, which, you know, it's not necessarily something that you would know. It's mostly framed as a gag, like a friendly gag, but
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
oh, look at these butch men in dresses and sloppy makeup and whatever. But I felt it was a really nice nod to this cultural tradition that exists kind of parallel to the story of Mulan and other major cultural touchstones.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And so we've jumped around a little bit. We've gone from Greece to Scandinavia to China. We're going to jump once more to Italy.
Woo.
Moving forward in time
Ooh.
a little bit to tell the story of Fanta-Giro, Persona Bella, or Fanta-Giro the Beautiful. And so some of you, I think all of you, would call yourselves mythology and folklore nerds. But one of the formative texts for me in terms of folklore and mythology growing up was this massive brick of a book called, in English translation, it was called Italian Folktales by Italo Calvino.
Oh, yep.
By Italo Calvino. In the Italian, it's Fiabe Italiane. And so it's a massive tome of, I believe, 200 collected folktales from all the regions of Italy.
Wow.
And so Calvino did not transcribe these direct from the source. He admits in the book and in his notes that these are collected from folklorists, and he notes variations and he notes regional differences and things like that, which is pretty great.
Yeah. Right.
But Fanta-Giro is, I believe, tale 69. Nice.
Thank you for that. you know your audience of this show. I appreciate that.
Tale 69 in the collection. And, well, it begins as most stories begin, I think, with a king and his three daughters.
There it is.
Checks out.
There it
Do
is,
it up.
baby.
And so this king has three daughters. The eldest is Carolina, the middle is Assuntina, and Fanta-Giro is the youngest and the most beautiful.
Of course.
Ooh.
The king has
Poor
three...
oldest daughter. But she's like, I fucking suffered for this.
You know what? And like that's always the case where it's like the oldest
Yeah.
daughter has to get married first. The youngest one can't get married first, but even though she's the prettiest,
Yeah.
it's always dumb.
I
hate
know.
it.
I
It's
know.
my least favorite fairy tale folklore thing.
Lear would have been spared so much suffering.
Oh, so much.
Yeah. So the king has three daughters. He also has three thrones. This is, you know, This is a unusual little detail.
Different days of the
weird.
week for his different styles of pants. Like, what are we talking about here?
The king has 3 thrones. One throne is painted sky blue for when his mood is high and bright.
Oh.
Oh, buddy, come on.
Oh, good. I like this a lot, though. Like, what if I walked into work one day and I was dressed in, like, dark gray and black? And it was like, yes, don't talk to Amanda today. And what if I came in sky blue? Like, hi, let's chat. I want to talk about, like, your mom. And I want to talk about your ideas. Yeah. That would be great. Genuinely. I would like it.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that. No one is stopping you.
Yeah, I know, but then I have to explain it to everybody.
All right.
And so the second throne is painted black for death, because that's normal.
Does that happen enough that you need to use that throne a lot? Because I
know.
would be concerned as you as a ruler.
When
if
you have to,
that's
like,
the
build
case.
infrastructure around how often death comes up in your court, you may want to look at your life and your choices and just reassess.
Not great.
Mm-hmm. But perhaps, worst of all, if we can say if there's something worse than death,
Uh-oh.
is the third throne painted red for war.
Oh,
I mean,
there it is.
That just, it comes with the territory,
Yeah.
I guess. Then you just swap in between
Yeah, it
the
feels
chairs.
like musical chairs, right?
Yeah.
I know. God, I feel like you were
You just
really...
like, you look at that blue one and you're like, oh man, I wish, but nope. Got to do either black or red today.
Ugh. Boo.
And so one morning, the 3 sisters, Carolina, Asuntina, and Fanta-Giro, come to the throne room to greet their father and find that, oh goodness, he's sitting on the red throne. He's sitting on the throne of war.
Uh-oh.
They ask him, what's going on? What's happening?
Hey, Dad, what up?
What's up, Dad? I see that
Please
you're not
explain.
in the blue chair.
Would you like to go sit in the blue chair instead?
No. Oh,
Maybe.
Oh, no.
Maybe a good idea. Yeah. Have you had your cappuccino yet today? Maybe you want the blue chair instead. The king tells his daughters he is sitting on the throne of war because the neighboring kingdom has declared war on their kingdom,
God damn.
Uh-oh.
and he needs a general to go out and fight.
One of the daughters.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes!
So Carolina, the eldest daughter, volunteers first. The king says, okay, I guess, but you're going to have to take the squire Tonino with you, and Tonino is going to make sure that you behave like a man and don't, drop your disguise just in case you get killed. It's that we don't want that.
Sure.
So we're going to have Tonino, basically knock on you if you slip up.
Gender
I am
police,
the grimmest
TM.
emoji right now.
Yeah, gender police, TM.
Basically, yeah. So Carolina dresses as a man, mounts her horse, takes Tonino with her, and they get part of the way to the neighboring kingdom.
Oh.
But they come across a cane field, and Carolina looks at the cane field and, kind of understandably, says, actually, I could use those canes to make distaffs for spinning. That would be really productive and practical and useful. Tonino says, you
Gender
slipped up.
police.
Yep.
Oh,
Nope.
no.
Men don't spin. That's a woman's thing. So Tonino brings Carolina back. Next, Asuntina, the middle sister, steps up.
Sure.
Same warnings, Tonino's going to knock on you if you decide,
Gender police is coming with you again.
Yep. And so they pass the cane field. Asuntina says nothing. Later on, they pass a vineyard, and Asuntina sees a pile of vine stakes. And again, honestly, she's being very practical, like her older sister.
Yeah.
And she says, hey, I could use all those vine stakes to make spindles. The kingdom needs cloth. The people need clothes.
Yeah.
See, I would have been like, I can make so much wine.
I know, but they're making, like, actual concrete contributions to their
know.
nation in a time of need.
No, this is like
Sorry, gender police.
This is like the letters between John Adams and Abigail Adams in 1776, where he's like, you need to make saltpeter. She's like, I just want needles, dude. I want to like sew uniforms for our fucking people. And you're trying to make me do like fucking science and shit to make saltpeter. What the fuck, dude?
Also, come home.
Come the fuck home. No one needs you there. Thomas Jefferson wrote the whole thing himself. Anyway, Abigail Adams gets a rough, like the short end of the stick.
Her and Freya would be BFFs.
Yeah, they would. And Hera.
But I do feel it's interesting that, throughout these stories of cross-dressing, certainly in the story of Achilles on Skyros, Achilles gives away his gender, his sex, by picking up the wrong or the right object,
So
right?
silly.
It's kind of a way to essentialize gender in a thing, a literal thing, external to you.
Yeah.
With all these cultural signifiers attached. Anyway.
Right. Or to imply that, like, you know, you can try to behave as you will, but like a compass pulled toward north, like there's something kind of, you know, inbuilt that will betray you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fucked up, but also shows us that, like, gender is a construct and it's a series of learned
definitely.
behaviors.
Such a
you know,
construct.
I don't know.
I kind of want to read what Judith Butler would have thought of this, but also, I mean, bless Judith Butler, but I always found her unreadable. I basically had to have my professor translate and give a précis before I understood her at all.
Damn.
Yeah.
Important, but also really jargony.
Yeah.
Yeah, we that's I think one example where, like, popular culture and discourse has done a pretty good reading of what it needs to be, and like you have a pretty good understanding of Judith Butler if you know what her name is. You don't have to dig into the source text.
Yep.
Yeah.
That helps.
So anyway, Tonino knocks on Asuntina, brings her back to court.
Fucking narc.
And so we have, it's all up to Fanta-Giro, the younger sister.
Come on, youngest daughter.
So she mounts up on the horse, dressed in armor.
She probably looks like Zendaya at the...
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
the
my
Met
God,
Gala.
I love it so much. Oh, the Met Gala. So I have a lot of opinions about that, and mostly that I want to wear that dress to my wedding.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Oh, man. So Fanta-Giro, Tonino at her side, passes the cane field, doesn't say anything. Passes the vineyard, doesn't say anything. And then so they cross the border successfully into the neighboring kingdom.
Hell.
Past those, you know,
Weird
hard challenges for women about practicality.
Yep. And so once they've arrived in the neighboring kingdom, Fanta-Giro in disguise asks for an audience with the enemy king. When the king sees her, he thinks, okay, but also, is she a lady?
Not where my head would go, but all right. Fair enough, dude.
And so the king, the enemy king, goes to his mother and asks, I think dude looks like a lady. So how can I make sure?
Dude looks like a lady. That's a song. Sorry.
I know, but I don't think we've got licensing rights.
Shh, it was less than like 10 seconds. We're good.
Fair use.
That's
Fair
not
use.
real. That's not real. Okay, we're fine.
It's all good. It's all good.
The enemy king's mother decides to put Fanta-Giro to a series of tests. The first test will remind us of the test that Odysseus put to Achilles, actually. The first test, yes. The enemy king brings Fanta-Giro to his armory and leads her through and watches how she interacts with everything on the shelves and walls, all the weapons and shields and things.
It's like a freaking early childhood psychology test where you put a toddler in front of objects and, like, you have to see how they interact with the world because they can't talk to you.
You want truck or Barbie doll? It doesn't matter what
There's
the
only two
child
choices.
wants.
Only one of them is right. Oh, no.
Gender's so dumb. So binary. I hate it. Anyway.
And so Fanta-Giro walks through the armory and displays her skills, essentially. She shows that she knows how to handle a sword, daggers. She knows how to carry a shield. She knows how to string and knock a bow.
It's almost like expertise isn't gendered.
Maybe. And so she's passed the test. The king still thinks, maybe a lady? And so goes back to his mum. And his mother tells
I feel
him...
like this is a him problem where he's like,
I know.
I find this man very attractive. She must be a lady. I'm sorry that your masculinity is so fragile.
Let's step back 4 steps and start questioning these frameworks.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe this enemy king is also a disaster buy. I don't know.
Like, come on, dude.
I know.
Starting a war, attracted to possibly a man. We don't know. And I'm just like judging all of the men in this.
Yeah,
I'm
they
sorry.
deserve it. They really
Yeah.
deserve it. And so the enemy king's mother puts Fanta-Giro to a second test, which is she has him lead her through a garden. And so
She smells a flower. She must be a lady.
a specific flower,
Oh,
though.
no.
Uh-oh.
The thing is, if Fanta-Giro plucks a rose or a violet and pins it to her bosom, that means she is a woman.
As opposed to what other... What's the masculine flower in this situation? I need to know.
A jasmine?
But they smell so these.
They do. They're my
I
favorite.
know, they're so good.
And we all know that good smells are gay.
Come on.
Specifically, Fanta-Giro passes the test by plucking a jasmine flower and putting it behind her ear.
I would do the same thing.
Maybe it's like a chivalry situation,
fucking
like
know.
courting rule. I don't know.
Anyway, passes the test. The king is still not satisfied. Get over your sexual confusion and just
no.
embrace it.
Deal with it, man.
She's too cute.
So goes back to his mum again. Third test is the test of...
This is also the most Italian story ever. That a Jew's like, Mom, I don't know what to do. Honey, take her through a garden and see what she does. Fuck.
Yeah, literally in the Calvino story, the king goes to his mother crying, Mama, Mama, help me.
No.
This is the most Italian man thing ever. Fuck. I have a lot of feelings about this right now.
So the third test is the test of the bread. And so...
Can she make it? Can she eat it? How does she do
How
it?
does she eat it, I think, is how does she break the bread? That's what I'm guessing.
Oh,
How does she cut the bread?
okay.
So if she holds the bread against her chest and cuts it, that means she's a lady?
What?
Sounds
But-
pretty dangerous, but okay.
Yeah, right? Because tits,
Right.
generally speaking.
Knives.
Yeah. You don't know.
Are they ripping it apart or like cutting it with
Specifically
a knife?
cutting.
What's the masculine
who
way?
would do that? Okay, sorry. I'm just...
I mean,
about
we
this
don't
test.
know what this enemy neighboring kingdom situation
Fucking
is.
weird.
True.
They've got weird etiquette. I don't know, the whole flower thing. So Fanta-Giro passes the test by holding the loaf of bread in front of her and cutting it in the air. I mean, the chest thing makes sense because you want to have some kind of resistance,
Right.
Yes.
right? But
And
you
like,
just sort of
is
freehand.
my bosom a plate? What's happening
I don't
here?
know. I mean,
It is if you try hard
I
enough,
know.
Julia. It is if you imagine.
I don't have plate-like bosoms, so I can't really comprehend that, but I understand that some people do, and
mean,
that's on them.
you just whop a corset over top of it, and then you've got a good cutting
That's true.
surface.
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, corsets make everything like it's just like a plane
Yeah.
in which I could use my.
I have a
boobs.
shelf now.
Yes.
And so, and you know, I feel like you don't get even slices if you cut in the air. It's you're just sort of
There's too much
hacking.
here. There's too much. We
I'm
have to
just
let it
thinking
go.
about cutting a bagel in the air.
Yeah,
which
no.
like I guess makes sense.
In the air?
I mean,
mean, if
that's
I-
what I do instead of like up against my breast.
Yeah, but
I
also
use,
I would be
don't know,
worried
a
about,
cutting
you know,
board.
once I'm done cutting the thing, just accidentally stabbing
Fall.
myself or someone
You're
else.
like, well, I'm dead now.
Or the half of the bread that you aren't holding falls.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you only have two hands.
yeah, that's true.
I don't
It
know.
falls onto. I don't know. I don't fucking.
Unless
know.
your mom is there holding it.
This is a terrible test. Fuck the mom that
But
came
anyway,
up with this.
but she passed.
She did. She passed.
She did, yeah. She cut the bread away from her.
Clearly.
And so the enemy king goes back to his mum for the fourth time and says,
Mom.
I really think she's a lady, and I still have some trouble with this idea.
Yikes.
And
I'm
so-
having some troubling dreams, and I'm not sure what to do.
Oh, no.
And so the mother says, you know what? I figured it out. This is what's going to solve it for good. And so the mother tells the king to invite Fanta-Giro, this mysterious stranger, to go swimming with him.
Well, yeah, that will fucking solve
You
it.
should have started there, my
Should have
dude.
started with the nakedness. God.
Bro to bro. Let's go to a naked swimming hole.
Because, you know, we're living in an age of gender binary and, you know, gender essentialism with the body,
Right.
blah, blah,
Biology
blah.
equals gender
Yeah.
all the time. Well,
I'm like shocked at how angry this story makes
oh
me.
no, Julia.
Sorry.
It ends really well,
All right,
I promise. And so the king invites Fanta-Giro to go swimming. And of course, she'll have to disrobe. And if she refuses to disrobe, then he knows she's finally a lady. Yeah. I
And
know.
therefore his attraction is
Julia's face
completely
is so
unproblematic.
skeptical. I'm with you. I'm with you there.
Alright, whatever, dude.
And so Fanta-Giro, you know, she gets it. She knows why she's been asked to go jump in a pond or whatever. All friendly like with this guy she's basically just met.
We're totally
Just
Also,
friends.
like, is
Just two
trying to
dudes.
wage war on her
Yeah.
country. Sure, let's go for a swim, dude.
There's
just
a
two
lot to
dudes.
unpack here.
Being bros in a pond.
Naked. Why not?
Yeah.
Just like friends do.
And this is where Tonino, the squire, the snitch, the narc, redeems himself,
You better.
which is kind of nice in a way. Even though I would totally support Carolina and Asuntina beating him up once he comes back
That's
to the kingdom, but still.
One right does not make up for the wrongs.
So Fanta-Giro writes a letter. She forges a letter and seals it with the royal seal of her own home kingdom.
Okay.
I'm glad that crimes are also on her list of skills.
Be queer, do crimes.
There
Oh,
we
yeah.
go. Catchphrase.
And so she's mocked up this letter, ostensibly from her father's court, and gives it to Tonino. So Fanta-Giro and the enemy king are, they're going down to the pond, about to disrobe, jump in, get really friendly, I guess. And then Tonino comes bursting into the clearing. Fanta-Giro, or whatever her false name is at the time.
Right.
And gives her this letter. And obviously it's got the royal seal. Something's going on back home.
Right.
She breaks it open, reads it aloud, and tells the enemy king that her father is very ill.
Oh no.
She needs to go home immediately. Sorry, I can't swim with you, but he's dying and he's my dad, so
That's
things
an
are more
excuse to
important.
go.
Yeah. So I guess she basically leaves him in the pond going, what the fuck?
Also, let's talk about how this is almost directly from Disney's Mulan too.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a
a
lot
bit.
of crossover
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Bit.
And so Fanta-Giro, before she leaves Enemy Kingdom, kind of like Odysseus and the Cyclops, she can't resist but reveal herself when she's safe. And she writes a note saying, haha, well, essentially, haha, I was a lady all along, I fooled you.
Aha, suck it.
And so she goes home with Tonino, with everything.
Cool.
And so the enemy king finds this note, says, I knew it. Also, I'm in love with her.
Yep.
Him, her. Okay, we'll go.
Whatever, it's fine.
And packs his bags and goes to his enemy kingdom, our original kingdom.
Right.
Fanta-Giro's kingdom, and says, so, I'm in love with your general, who is a lady, and I want to marry her and make peace between our kingdoms.
All right. Well, that's
Very
a strategy.
Italian.
Yeah.
Very Italian.
And so, technically, that's a happy ending.
I
Wow.
mean, yeah, as long as she was also in love with him later and was like, yeah, I'll marry him. It's fine.
I mean, there are worse political marriages.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the
I
story of
Pretty
Fanta-Giro.
fucking
it.
good.
I kind of dig it.
And funnily enough, during the 1990s, there was a 5-film series. I believe these aired on television, an Italian television film series, very loosely based on this story.
All right.
Fanta-Giro, or La Grotta della Rosa d'Oro, the Cavern of the Golden Rose.
Cool.
I have only seen very badly dubbed and subtitled clips on YouTube.
Wonderful.
And I would love to try and find a good
I'm gonna
copy.
try to find it now.
Yeah.
So this, they made these films during the big 1990s high fantasy boom in
Right.
film. So it's sort of that similar aesthetic to things like, I guess, Legend and Willow and Lady Hawk and stuff like that.
Nice.
So it's, what I've seen dubbed in like Czech or whatever has been pretty fun.
That was good.
Some sexually charged swimming scenes.
Oh,
I
man.
love it.
I mean,
love
I
it.
don't know. It may
Presumably.
not be in there, but only the first film is based on the broad plot structure of the folktale.
Oh boy, that's
The
a
other
lot
4
of room
films-
for things to go.
Yeah.
Very
Horribly
many
wrong.
ways.
Yeah, the other 4 films in the series just kind of go every which way. They're like witches and dragons and all kinds of creatures and whatnot. Why not?
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Indeed.
But yeah, so again, that is a story that exists in various adaptations in popular culture.
Hell yeah.
Not as I guess universal as Mulan is in China, but still culturally significant
Sure.
in that
Yeah.
it has a cheesy 5-film television series
That's all you
adaptation.
can ask for.
Also good for the king, for being the original king, the dad king, for being like, hey, these are the kids I have. I need a general. Girls, you've been trained in all the things you have to do. Like, go forth.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
There are lots of stories across cultures that kind of follow this broad strokes of there's some kind of martial need, there's a war on, essentially. I mean, Achilles certainly is kind of the reverse example of this. There are a lot more examples, I feel, of women having to dress up as men to go to war instead of a man dressing up as a woman to avoid war, which is pretty unusual as these things go. But, there's specifically related to Fanta-Giro, there's a French variant called, and forgive me francophones, called Belle Belle ou le Chevalier Fortuné by Madame Delnoy, a very well-known literary folklorist who actually gave the name fairy tale conte de fées to the genre.
Ooh.
Cool.
Madame Delnoy.
Thank you, madame.
And so the story of Belle Belle is a little more Twelfth Night-esque. There's a subplot of the the foreign queen also falling in love with Belle in disguise. And,
I'm here for
it.
it.
It's a little bit Violet, Viola, and Cesario and Olivia and all of that. There's a Russian variation called Vasilisa, the priest's daughter, which is in a collection by the folklorist Alexander Afanasieff. Other Italian versions include Straparola's Costanta Costanzo and Basile's Le Tre Corone, or The Three Crowns.
I love it.
I love it
all
so
these
much.
stories.
It's a story worth repeating. This is awesome and much better than King Lear. Hot take.
Hot take.
Women cross-dressing as men is kind of a really nice subgenre of women kicking ass, literally or metaphorically, and succeeding, which, I mean, there's so many stories of women with tragic ends that it's nice to have this thread across countries and cultures in which they succeed.
Yeah, most of the
Disguised
stories,
as men, but also it's still pretty great.
Yeah, most of the stories super positive endings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity in a way to like transgress social boundaries that are kind of bullshit, you know, and in a way to be like, hey, isn't it weird that you have to go through these like strange hoops to like occupy space in a military campaign or in a court kind of diplomatic relations or to make friends with men. So I think it's very cool. I imagine it as if I were kind of living in these cultures contemporaneously, it would have been like my favorite stories of all time. I would have like dressed up as these characters, and it's really just like a very cool sense of like transgression and freedom.
We do have actual historical echoes of this, not just Telesilla in Argos, but there are a lot of women who dressed as men during the American Civil War.
Yep.
Yes.
And, we don't know if these particular women were trans who actually identified as men, but they still did this thing and they largely succeeded.
Yeah, and there's a great episode of the podcast Sawbones about medical history about Dr. James Barry. Who was either, again, like we're not sure, either the first trans man or the first woman, living, presenting as a man in order to be able to get access to medical training, but graduated medical school and like served a role in the British Army and traveled all around, met Florence Nightingale and like dressed her down for not wearing enough sun protection. Like just an incredible person.
Yeah, I will link to that episode because it's a really good episode.
But yeah, it's this is just like the best part of history and the best part of culture and of storytelling. So thank you so much, Andrea, for bringing these stories to us.
It was entirely my pleasure.
Do you want to link to your stuff again?
So I am a book publicist, a writer, and an actor in training. And you can find me on Twitter at Andrea, Andrea, N, as in Nicole, my middle name, Lam, Lam. And there, mostly, I'm just a massive nerd about mythology and folklore and history.
AKA a great follow.
Why wouldn't you follow?
Thank you so much. And remember, listeners,
stay creepy.
Stay cool. Thanks again to our sponsors this week. Siren is a TV series about mermaids, but not the way you know them. It comes back on January 24th on Freeform. And thank you to Skillshare. Skillshare.com/spirits2 will get you 2 free months of premium membership. Spirits was created by Amanda McLaughlin, Julia Shafini, and Eric Schneider, with music by Kevin MacLeod and visual design by Allison Wakeman.
Keep up with all things creepy and cool by following us at Spirits Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr. We also have all of our episode transcripts, guest appearances, and merch on our website, as well as a form to send us your urban legends at spiritspodcast.com.
Join our member community on Patreon, patreon.com/spiritspodcast, for all kinds of behind-the-scenes stuff. Just $1 gets you access to audio extras with so much more available too. Recipe cards, director's commentaries, exclusive merch, and real physical gifts.
We are a founding member of Multitude, a collective of independent audio professionals. If you like Spirits, you will love the other shows that live on our website at multitude.productions.
And above all else, if you liked what you heard today, please share us with your friends. That is the very best way to help us keep on growing.
Thank you so much for listening. Till next time.